if one speaks now about the policy response, we've already seen the Reserve Bank of India and the MPC sort of start to act. Would you anticipate that they would have to keep reacting to these numbers going ahead, even though some of these pressures may not actually be something within the realm of monetary policy or the control of monetary policy?
Yes, I think it's very important to be clear upfront what the RBI is capable of doing with monetary policy and what is beyond their control. I think what's beyond their control is the source of the shock, as in the source of the shock is a supply shock. Some of it has come from global commodity prices. Some of it has come from other factors such as heat waves. Let's see how the monsoon progresses. None of that can be changed by the RBI. So we have to be very clear about that. But what RBI can do is to take care of some of the second round effects. And that is what the RBI is trying to do. Second round effects control is never full. It's always, part, particularly in a country like India, where we have such a large informal sector. And it also has huge transmission lags. It has about 2 to 3 quarters. Our best hope is that the RBI removes some of the extraordinary accommodation of the pandemic period. And that helps bring down inflation expectations, or rather keeps inflation expectations from rising too much. And that becomes a primary tool of inflation control. Another tool of inflation control is that as you keep hiking rates, the demand for credit comes down, and therefore, inflation associated with that also comes down. But here, RBI will have to tread a really fine line. As in, I think it's very important at this point to remove the extraordinary accommodation. It's very important to take real rates out of the negative terrain where savers are getting hugely punished. But how positive do you want to drive it? Do you want to go all the way up to where you think neutral real rates are? Or do you want to stay a little under that? And my sense is that, RBI may want to stay a little under neutral real rates. And in that sense, striking a balance between both, growth and inflation.
What is the neutral real rate right now?
So that's a tough one.
Yeah.
So the neutral real rate before the pandemic was just above 1%. By RBI's own research. My sense is, let's see, after all the rate hikes around the world, it's about there. My own terminal rate forecasts, which is 6% repo rate by June 2023, implies for me that they will take India's real repo rate to 0.5. Which is basically just under 1. So that's what I'm forecasting at this point. And for me, that is the fine, balancing line. So, just to sort of make it a bit more clear, right now the repo rate is 4.5. I think there will be a couple of pit stops. The first pit stop would be to cross 5.15, which is where the repo rate was at the start of the pandemic, which I think they will sort of achieve by end September. The next pit stop would be taking it to 5.5. This is an important number for me because my 1 year ahead inflation forecast for FY24 is 5.5. So taking the repo rate to 5.5 means that you're finally coming out of negative real rates. And I think we will reach repo rate of 5.5% by December 2022. And once we reach there, my sense is RBI will take a very careful look at growth. If growth allows, they will hike a little more. And my sense is they'll move from 5.5 to 6. And at 6, they would be just under, neutral real rates.
What's the growth trade-off, Pranjul? There will be one if you're hiking rates in quick succession at a time when, in any case, impulses are fairly weak.
Well, look, yes, but this is a hard question, Ira. We always think that low rates, bring growth. But we've also seen in India's case that low rates were not able to trigger the private capex cycle as many had hoped, at least in previous cycles. So this is a tough one. I do think that, very high rates at some point will start hurting growth, but the rate hikes I am talking about right now are just about taking India to a safe territory, taking India towards positive real rates, which I think is necessary to have sustainable GDP growth.
The only sort of difference between the previous cycle and now is that, now, and we've discussed this in the past, that some of the twin balance sheet overhangs, etc., had gone, and the hope was that, you'll finally see credit start picking up as demand starts strengthening. Will the rate hiking cycle damage that a little bit, and hence sort of, prevent a pickup in the economy that could have happened should rates have stayed low?
I've looked at this very carefully. My sense is at this point, the biggest dampener to private capex is not rates, and it's not even like liquidity withdrawal. It is economic uncertainty. The fact that we are finding it very hard to forecast growth, inflation, commodity prices with a huge level of confidence at this point. There's so many moving parts around the world, and I think when you see this kind of economic uncertainty, the first thing to retract is private capex, and I think that's the biggest problem right now. If I think of a hypothetical situation in which this economic uncertainty goes out of the window, but rates are a little higher, my sense is we would start seeing private capex pick up.